And that's really cracking people open into their sort of next level of consciousness. Okay, I'm not just this lifetime. I am a multidimensional being. And so it is the difficult relationship may have just manifested in order for you to break out of a singular egoic identity approach, saying, well, from my current identity, I'm going to fix this relationship with this person in their current identity. Now it's saying, oh, there's multiple identities playing into this dynamic, and I'm going to work with the energy of all of those identities. And oh, guess what? I am more than a singular egoic identity. I have been many things. Oh, next level, guess what? I am everything. And everything is me. That's a big crack in the consciousness.
Now you have to take responsibility for all of it.
For
Because
everything.
actually you created it, and you were all everything.
Yes, and you are all things. So different, again, healers, modalities will speak very well, different levels at different times. And dear ones may not be ready to crack into their all consciousness God self if they're on their first rodeo with some personal development.
Yeah.
And so these things happen over time as you are ready for it, as it's ready to unfold. You may find that you manifest a situation that may drive you to a healer because you're going through a surrender, saying, I don't know. Even now I understand about past lives, and everything that I learned from the people that I work with past lives is now no longer working. I need to go to the next level, go to somebody who different for a new piece of the bandwidth. And it could be because you're actually having your consciousness cracked to the next level.
Welcome to Spread Your Third Eye podcast. I am your host, Mia Wrights, and we are here with the beautiful Vicky Hawk. Not. I misunderstood her original last name.
Let's just say it rhymes with Hawk.
It rhymes with Hawk. And that would have been one of my favorite names if it was that last name.
Way to open the show.
We have our beautiful guest. Our resident guest.
Hello, everybody. Yes,
Georgia
happy to be
Jean.
here again in my happy pink chair.
To take us beyond the veils into other dimensions of those who have not seen this podcast, Georgia Jean is a higher dimensional channeler.
Yes. I go into trance and we bring through information beyond the veil of the 3D human egoic mind. I like to think of us as the Google of consciousness.
Yes.
So you just type in what you want to talk about and then streams of information come through. And that's the purpose of having our beautiful guests, because it gives us an opportunity to have somebody else ask questions and bring in a different piece of the cosmic pie for the Circle of Light to channel about. So it's fun.
Yeah, and thank you for coming, because Vicky does healing touch, and she has her own ceramics company. Where can we find you?
Online, I have my website, fireandwaterceramics.com.
You guys if you guys are watching the show, you guys can see
This
her
beautiful work.
art.
Yeah.
I mean, abstract, beautiful ceramics art.
What is because I know ceramics has a lot of traditions. Is yours is coming from a certain tradition in ceramics, an extension of a certain tradition? Basically, how do you make it?
Well, I work on wheel, but mainly most of my stuff is hand built because I like that asymmetry.
Okay,
beautiful.
yes.
Thank you so much. Asymmetric, wabi-sabi, kind of organic looking.
Right, wabi-sabi. That's a style, a genre, a school, or just
I don't
a
know
word
if it
you
is.
made up?
It's like it's a Japanese term where it's like, impermanence, imperfectess, like those are the beautiful elements of things.
Right.
Yeah,
that's beautiful. They're stunning. If you can't see them, they're just
We'll
sort of
put a
organic.
link, guys, if you can't see.
Yes.
We'll put a link in the description so you can check out our work on Instagram,
And
we'll put a website in.
She made us
brought
beautiful
these
mugs as well. We've got beautiful mugs.
Yes.
Yay. So we're very excited.
Yeah.
How long have you been doing your ceramics for?
Figuring it out, probably 5 years.
Okay. Wow.
Launching a website, maybe the last year.
Oh, wow. Very exciting. Well, this is
Yeah.
exciting
And
to
they're
have you on the show.
like people love those kind of ceramics in the homes right now. Like that's very, like I have a bunch in my home. Of course
Yeah.
not as nice as yours. That's beautiful handmade. Those are like really beautiful.
Yeah,
So,
and then what we're learning, it's like it holds so much stuff in there.
Every
So-
piece holds the codes of the creator and whatever the creator has
integrated.
integrated in their journey. And this is why it is beautiful to support artists and artisans, as opposed to just factory manufactured ceramics and things like that, because you really are buying the journey of the artist to be able to produce something like that, and everything that they've alchemized within themselves in their process goes into that. Each object is, it's like a little healer you get to take home.
And you actually receive those healing codes that she has energetically put into her work.
Yeah,
so it
yeah.
actually, from the Circle of Light, we just had an episode about art. It actually helps. Art helps the evolution of humanity from its healing codes and frequencies, which that was kind of mind blowing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I was playing with actually doing energy healing on my pieces, thinking of like setting certain frequencies, kind of like how you program crystals, kind of.
Yes, I love it.
But then I was almost thinking like maybe I don't even need to do that because it's already going in there.
Right.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
That's a good question for the circle, because Vicky's lovely because she crosses. Well, we said she's doing the hand stuff because she does healing touch. She makes ceramics, and she's been working with the circle for a little bit, and they had some interesting stuff about those processes, which I had never channeled before for Vicky. This is why I love having the clients, because every client brings through. I hope you don't mind that I just outed you. No. Okay.
Open book.
We only talk about ceramics. No. Just so like. She's out of the cosmic closet. Well, she's on Spread Your Third Eye podcast. It can't be that big a secret. And you're about to talk to
You're not going to blur me?
Her voice will be like this. I first started going to the circle in 2023. That'd be hilarious. When we get some big names, we can give them the option.
We'll give them
with the blurred face and the glass. And the CIA operative voiceover.
And my fake name will be Vicky Beep.
If you haven't worked out what that is by now, we'll let you know in the after hours. Stay tuned to the end of the show to find out what is the name.
What rhymes with
Hawk. And we all know Mia is a saucy lady, so
it would be my favorite last name.
And we were saying it should be Hawk Ceramics.
Hawk Ceramics. Yeah, yes. They're fiery. It'll get you fired up. I think that was the tagline.
Before and after the circle comes in, but I try to be professional.
We try to be good while the circle's in, but
respectful.
Hey, they're like enlighten up people. I think they're okay with a little bit of sass talk. Yeah, a little bit. Of
I'm
sass
definitely
talk.
rebranding
after
after this.
But speaking of brands, just because we get all spacey when the circle comes in, and we often forget to do proper closeouts.
Yes.
Tell everybody your website now for your beautiful ceramics.
Oh, fireandwaterceramics.com.
And is that also your portal for your healing touch? Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's everything.
Great.
It's everything Vicky.
Okay.
That's fabulous. So cool. Well, should we just bring in the circle? Are you ready for that? If I don't look at you a lot, it's because I'm trying to speak in my mic.
We gotta look this way so we don't.
Okay, so I'm just going to bring them in, and we'll see you afterwards. Hi, yes, indeed, dear ones, we are here, and we are most delighted to make connection with you here on another magnificent day in your earth plane. All right, dear ones, well, we are so delighted, as always, to connect with a dear friend and all of you out there. And yes, remember, it is true that every episode that is created has the codes of that which, as you are watching this, you are also having questions in your mind, curiosities, and you are bringing these forward in this now moment. They're embedded in this creation, and later on you may find that you watch a show that gives you the physical manifestation of the information. So whatever topic is being discussed is part of what is happening each time you watch. Allow your curiosity to continue to unfold, and we are responding with the intelligence for your greater awakening, dear ones. So, as we begin with this lovely conversation, how can we be of assistance to you today, dear one?
Well, I was actually just interested in understanding like what actually happens in an energy healing.
Indeed, yes. And there are a lot of dear ones out there who are pursuing this pathway because there is such a big evolutionary shift going on. So we're just going to tune into the channel a little bit more, dear one. You might want to remind everybody.
Yes. Guys, don't forget we are on Spotify, we are on YouTube and iTunes. So if you can't watch us on the show, you can always listen to us. But there is a little disclaimer. If you are driving, operating heavy machinery, this can trans you out. So make sure to listen to it at night if it will make you sleepy.
Indeed. So whenever there is somebody who is acting as a healer, really, they are opening up that gateway between the 3D and what lies beyond the egoic veil. Now, there are variations in how dear ones can act as that opening gateway. And in the case of, we will talk about the healing touch aspect, how anybody who is doing healing touch style transmissions are assisting their clients through the actual connection of physical touch. Now, energy moves beyond the physical material plane, so you don't need touch to allow a healing energy to come through. An intention always is enough to begin the process. But the human who is playing the role of the healer very much is opening the gateway and is also the translator of energy into the material physical plane. So if you have a person who has some sort of issue and you have a healer who's able to open up that gateway into the non-physical realms where things like healing energies and guides can work through that gateway, the human is the translator of those energies into something that can exist here on the material plane and then be sort of transferred, if you will, to the person who is receiving the healing. There has to be this sort of translation point, just in the same way as Georgia right now receives these frequencies and then translates it into sound. That translation point is what the healer is essentially doing. Whether they know that they are getting specific information about somebody's issue, where it's coming from. So very often with healing touch and this sort of thing, the healer will receive information about the causes and the effects of what is generating the sore knee or whatever it is. They're translating from that information level, but they're also translating the healing frequencies into a kind of biological template as well, because it's passing through that physical structure of the healer. Does that make sense, dear ones? And then going into whoever is calling that information through. So yes, it's like a translation.
It goes in, it helps to go into the biology of the human, the healer, to help give more biological codes.
In a way, it sort of needs to be recalibrated at a level that is physical manifestation. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So healing codes can come in, but when you have that translation point, now those codes can match frequency with physicality, because that's where people a lot of the times are looking for the healing to happen on the physical level. So there's healing codes that can be transmitted that will help people think and feel better. And sometimes just giving a piece of advice can help somebody think better about themselves or whatever it is, and that may be enough. But when you're talking about bringing especially physical healing, something that has to happen on the physical level, there has to be a physical rearranging of energy on that level, and the healer helps to materialize the model, if you will. They're modeling that physical energy for the moment that they're going through the touch. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes. And the role of a healer, how they can expand their sort of repertoire, and this would often translate into the client base that can then come to them as well, happens by, first of all, a lot of the times healing things within themselves that may have even directed them towards the healing path, because very often dear ones who take that path have some things they want to work through themselves. And as each time you kind of work through something, you're now holding those healing codes for whoever's coming to you. And you may have made that connection directly yourself. Anyone that you may learn from in your pathway, so a teacher, a guide, a mentor, some practitioner, you're also starting to be able to embody the healing codes that they are transmitting through their instruction. And this is why we say sometimes if you want to get bigger, you want to surrender your own sense of, oh, this is how much I can do myself, and open up and receive those codes from other people who've taken that pathway. And then there's also the clients themselves, when they are an archetype calling for those healing codes to come through you, you may receive a new set of codes that initially you receive as energy, but you will start to be able to embody that and then transmit it on the physical level. And this is often why it's very good to go more than once to somebody, because there is a learning of that translation for you. Yes.
That makes sense.
Yes, yes. Does that all make sense? For the questions, dear one?
It makes me always think of, is there such a thing as a better healer or an inefficient healing session? Or is it kind of the perspective that you're just, whatever it is that you need, you're going to attract the right at the moment?
Yes. So many of these things are guided by bigger pictures. So what's really wonderful about when somebody just says, okay, I need healing, is they've gone into that point of surrender. They've realized that there is some sort of limitation within the foundation of their own egoic programming that's just not letting that answer in or that resolution. And you can simply surrender by going to the heart. You don't have to necessarily surrender by going to somebody else, because if you surrender and go into your heart can also start to call those healing codes in for you as well. Once you're embodying those more, you may manifest somebody who then has a knowledge base that, whether it's energetically or also in other levels of their understanding, integrated understanding, the tools that they have in their tool bag, they may then be the mirror that's also matching the vibrational shift that you're inviting in and starting to embody. They may tip it over the edge. So it's sort of a interweaving of things, chicken and the egg and the chicken and the egg and more chickens and more eggs, dear ones. You're all working together. But in terms of Source is always responding. And we like to share this idea because sometimes there are people who have healing powers who may, in other areas in their life, may not be acting in a very ethical way. But remember that Source is always responding. And so when people turn to these people, asking and calling for healing, Source is going to respond to that. And if that person places hands on them or does something, Source is not going to deny the healing to the person that's asking for it. That person may still be an unconscious translator of those codes passing through, regardless of how they are operating in other areas of their lives. And this is why we sort of say that it's always a good idea to get a picture of who you're working with generally if you want to keep that entire relationship in an aligned state. So because there are dear ones who will be drawn into people who may then actually manipulate that power for their own benefit, because it is a power that you're calling in, dear ones. So just like doctors, lawyers, restaurants, read your reviews, dear ones. But what we would like to say, dear ones, on that is that may be part of your learning process as well. And if you go to your heart and really ask your heart to guide you to the best person, the best alignment to assist you, first of all, you're doing that surrender. You're saying, okay, I don't know how to fix, heal, or change this on my own. I'm surrendering to my heart, and I'm surrendering to another aspect of consciousness that's already a greater embodiment, or can translate that embodiment state to me. And that's why somebody becomes a more skilled healer over time, is because their experiences are going to bring them more codes to be able to translate and pass through. But really, anybody in their heart with that intention is going to transmit those codes. And we also want to give that to encourage people who are starting, who may be struggling with, well, am I worthy of doing this? Should I be doing this? Am I allowed to be doing this? Yes, in the bigger picture, you're probably not going to be sent a client that you aren't on the verge of being able to assist, or already have the codes to assist in your tool bag. Yes, because there is a sort of a bandwidth. It's like a Venn diagram, really, of where all those things cross over.
Yeah. So when we say energy healing, obviously, since everything is energy,
yes,
it's kind of a healing,
things.
all things, all modalities. But I think of energy healing usually as the touch thing, because usually if you're doing another modality, it's kind of a specified thing, like I'm an Akashic Records reader, I'm a tarot reader. You don't really say, I guess you can say energy healing. But I guess in terms of when somebody is seeking healing, is it whatever they're attracted to, or are there certain things that are better at healing other things?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Are there better modalities for healing certain issues? Is that what you're asking? We want to make sure we have the question correct in your intention.
Yeah, I am asking that. And I think this comes from a client asking me, because a lot of times, when you're doing touch or even remote touch, people are coming for physical illnesses or injuries. That's usually where the brain goes. But
Yes.
She was like, can you help me with my relationship with my daughter? And I thought that was really significant, because I don't know if that would be my first choice to go to an energy healer of touch, right?
Indeed. All right. Yes, very good. So certainly when there's healing touch going on, there's a lot going on anyway that is lying outside of just the contact between the two bodies, the healer and the person receiving it. And we would say absolutely healing touch can be used for healing things in somebody's life, because the material physical manifestation of somebody's life, like somebody's relationship with their daughter, that's a material extension of that person. It's a physical extension. So when you're touching someone physically, you are touching a lot of their unconscious creating data, if that makes sense. So in the body, a lot of memory is stored, and a lot of data is stored in your genetic encoding, in your DNA, that pertains to how you physically manifest in reality. So physical relationship is a reflection of encoding that's held in programming that's held in the physical body. So if you can extend your idea or understand this idea, it's very helpful that the physical body is the physical generator. So most of the work that we do, even though when we're working through Georgia, we're working on the physical computer, what we sort of joke to be the meat computer that's generating your reality. So yes, if you had somebody who needs help healing their daughter, somewhere in that physical program that generates their reality is the codes for the issues with the daughter, and also where it could be moved. Now that may be that it's in belief structures, which might guide you to touch in a different area of the body, but there's a lot of unconscious energy held, for example, in the pelvis, in different parts of the body hold different types of memory, and that memory generates reality. So that's a long answer to say absolutely yes. But it doesn't, and it also doesn't take you having to touch the physical body to access that as well. You can also remotely, as you say, access the level of the physical body. But that's your body is your computer program sister that generates your reality. So yes, that's where a lot of the healing can lie, regardless of what area of the life somebody's issues are in.
Okay. So then it almost seems like, I guess that would be kind of part in the expansion of a healer, right? Like how much information they can actually read and take in.
Yes. So, and that goes down to, yes, the translation capacity of the healer. So translation happens. So information that lies outside of what the five physical senses are picking up. So when somebody comes to you, you see them, you hear them, and if you are touching them, you touch them. Even a lot of this stuff that we're talking about, you're not going to see, because you're probably not going to see into their DNA unless you have developed that capacity to translate broader information that lies outside of the range of the physical senses. That happens through the opening of the pineal gland and the training of the brain, your brain as the healer, to receive the messaging from what's being translated by the pineal gland. That's how you get the information that isn't obviously presenting. And that is something that somebody has the capacity to work on and to learn, and practice makes perfect, dear ones. And we would say this again to encourage our dear friends who are opening this pathway in their life. You're not going to be perfect all the time. What you want to trust always is that the intention is the most powerful thing at the beginning in regards to when you go to somebody. So even if somebody isn't seeming to get everything right, that is their training process to figure out, okay, when I get this image and I think it's about the daughter, but it was actually about the son, that's data that the healer is getting, learning to make their interpretations more accurate about the signals that are coming in through their pineal gland. And that's just something that gets developed over time, just as you practice your pottery, just as people practice music. You want to just allow yourself the sacredness of practice and the sacredness of receiving data, receiving feedback, and allowing the brain and your system to learn the thing. Don't beat yourselves up, basically, is what we're saying. But somebody who has a lot of experience may be more refined in that area and be able to give more information to the client about what is happening. But again, we want to just keep reiterating that you're already acting as the gateway and the translator on some level, especially with healing touch, because you're touching them and your body is now translating those healing codes for you to pass through, if that makes sense. But the extra information, like perhaps it's a past life, or perhaps it's a this, or even the volume or level of energy that you are feeling in your body that lets you know where it is or where to go, that's all the secondary pathway of developing the mastery, if you will.
So it's almost like you're reading like the subtle body layers, right? Like somebody's aura.
It's all information.
Yeah.
So we like to sometimes make things very general to help people understand. Everything is consciousness, and consciousness is data, intelligence, information, whatever it is, whatever you want to call it. Whether it's at vibrating at a level such that you experience it as physicality, which is that physical body, or if it's in what we call that immaterial plane, which is the more energetic plane, it's still existing as intelligence. It's still existing as consciousness. You can still learn to pick it up, and then the brain starts to give you more visceral translations of that. Right now, the physical body and the physical senses is what your brain is used to picking up and giving you your experience of physical life. But these extra frequencies that lie outside of that range is what you're training your brain to open up, and through the opening of the pineal gland, allowing that.
I started studying mediumship just for a brief second, and I was understanding, like, you bring people, souls from the other side, and you speak with them. And they describe it as psychic being different than a medium, because a medium, you're actually connecting to a soul versus reading energy. Is that correct? Or
so it is all energy, because even a crossed over aspect is now a saturation of a flavor of energy that was, quote unquote, once human and is now not human. Although in the non-physical, of course, it's all happening in the oneness. So it's a saturation of energy. So everything that becomes something is a saturation of energy. Your beautiful pieces of pottery are saturations of energy that have become this form. But you don't relate to the pottery in the same way as you relate to another human being. So the answer is both things at once, in a way, because it is all energy. Energy takes form in different saturations. Some of those saturations you experience as human beings. And so by its nature, the frequencies of that energy lies in a slightly different bandwidth as, say, the pottery. The pottery existed before you made it material as well. The pottery once existed, or is always existing, in the immaterial plane. And then your ability to open up your gateway is actually what pulls the pottery through into the material plane. And then your hands do it. Does that make sense?
Okay, so I think I'm starting to understand. It's mostly like the modalities that we created kind of help us channel our focus.
Yes, they may help channel. So somebody's different capacities, what you're picking up in each of the different modalities is a different bandwidth of energy that may speak more or less specifically to somebody. If somebody really wants to connect with a consciousness that is now crossed over, no longer in the physical plane, but still existing in the immaterial plane, somebody whose brain and pineal gland is more trained to pick up in that kind of psychological bandwidth, if you will, is going to be more helpful than for that immediate experience for that person who wants to get messages, than, say, somebody who is a painter, although a painter may paint their portrait. You get what we're saying. So people are going to relate differently, and your capacity to translate and speak the consciousness, speak the intelligence into something that can be a visceral experience for that person, because the crossover relative is there in consciousness. Only the egoic framework is keeping them in a state of separation. So as a healer, as a medium, as somebody who's bringing new intelligence in through creation, you are translating between the immaterial plane and the material plane. For somebody who isn't able to access that themselves as clearly and as neutrally as it may take, to receive, and they want that experience. They want that experience. But it all, a lot of the times you will find as you're opening up to develop your capacity to be this translator, it will expand into many areas of what you're capable of, but you may have preferences because, as for example, somebody who creates things physically like pottery, you already have an innate opening in your hands that may be bypassing the resistance in your egoic mind to different codes of creation anyway. So that's a helpful starting point. Does that make sense? For a lot of people, some people are very auditory. It may be a lot easier for them to pick up information that is more sound oriented. For example, clairaudience.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Or connect to sound healing and use sound as a healing modality. So everybody has their flavors. You don't have to be able to do it all, but know that when you're creating that intention, you are doing something, even as a person who doesn't see themselves as talented. We like to give always that metaphor with music. Everybody can play the chopsticks, but some people have the interest, the open gateway, and the focus, the dedication to be able to play a concerto.
Yeah. Does the healer have a responsibility to the client? And if so, what is that?
This is a wonderful question. Does the healer have a responsibility to the client in terms of the quote-unquote results that they're getting overall? We would say ultimately, we want to empower everybody to know that your intention is always going to be the most powerful thing. And if you are working with somebody and you're not feeling a resonance or feeling a result, you can move on and find something that's a better match in the bandwidth for what you want. The word responsibility can really carry a weight, and it starts to sit with the idea of value, which is really about, can a healer's current bandwidth capacity provide value to somebody that is seeking healing? We like to see it more as an alignment, and if you're in your heart, a lot of that can be shuffled out in the way things are just coming together. Somebody notices an ad and feels a draw. You saw Georgia and had a knowingness that you wanted to come and work with us. So a lot of that alignment is probably there in place. But for somebody to, and Georgia has a real thing about this, if you understand your own capacity as a healer, then in a way you have a responsibility to be authentic about that and proffer that in the way that you share your experience, charge for it, all of those things. That is perhaps under the energetic ethics of being a healer. Does that make sense, dear one? Does that answer your questions? But ultimately, there are some people, when they come, that they need to be able to open themselves up to really also receive the value of what they're doing. So it isn't all on the healer either to make it happen for the person. The person who is coming for the healing, if they're going into that surrender, to invite that receptivity to receive it and integrate what they may not agree with everything the healer is saying, if that makes sense, because that could fall in under that area where the healer is not perfectly translating the consciousness that's passing through. But if somebody really has the intention and doesn't resist that they went in to receive healing, they'll get a lot more out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I sip on your mugs, I'm going to just totally, with her healing hand touch on
Yes,
her clay ingrained.
Yes.
That is like extra special.
Yes.
It was always special, but then when you realize like really what's behind it, it's really amazing. Right?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Yes. And this is again why we say there's a lot of value that which has been crafted through the human egoic framework to gift, to uplift the human egoic collective. And that is a responsibility, if you want to call it that, but it was an intention that many dear ones who incarnated at this time would be uplifting the human collective, because that is the game. And many of you are multifaceted, multi-talented people. And we also want to say, dear one, with that idea of healing, that healing can become an idea and a notion and an identity sometimes. And when people get moved by healing themselves, sometimes they feel a great passion to assist others and to bring relief and uplift others. And what we also want you to hear is that you can be healers in many different ways, and you don't always have to radically change your life and take on that role of a healer unless it feels very authentic to you. And even modalities that you're using right now, as you open up and really hold those intentions to bring more through and to understand more through, you can be doing healing doing a tarot reading. You can be doing a physical healing, doing mediumship. You can be doing all of those things, making pottery and sharing that consciousness out into the world, because that's how things move a lot faster. There's only a small percentage of the human collective who are actually going to healers. The evolutionary shift happens by those who raise their frequency through such modalities as healings, then creating more things that get shared out into the world as well. So your photographs, your being, your presence itself is a healing emanation at that point.
What about like the different types of healing modalities, like she was saying? Why do we have different types of healing modalities instead of just like,
one size fits all?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, you're all unique cocktails of consciousness. Let's remember that. You all carry, when you incarnated, you kind of created yourself as a cocktail of this different consciousness intelligence. And some modalities may resonate more deeply with those different energetic cocktails that you are as well. And again, a lot of that is to do with the bandwidth. We would say if you have a really great connection with a certain person or group or modality, you're probably in your bandwidth, and you can probably tell from the results that there's a good match going on there, even if it doesn't always make sense to the linear mind. It's just that people have every creation that somebody is in a unique bandwidth. Yes.
So some people would benefit better from Reiki. Some people would benefit better from what's some of the other healing stuff?
Oh, like Akashic records reading, or mediumship, or
Yes.
or past life regression.
Yes. And so, for example, past life regression, Akashic records reading, certain things will speak also, and this is why it's also, feel free to change your healers, will speak with more saturation to a cause point for somebody's issue at that time. So let's just say an obvious one is somebody's having big relationship issues with somebody, and there's a lot of attraction, and there's also a lot of repulsion or issues or this going on. Very often that's because those two consciousnesses have blended multiple times and multiple incarnations, multiple lifetimes, parallel realities, all this sort of thing. And you're trying to reorganize that energy so you can have a more aligned relationship in this current lifetime, or receive from that interaction what your quote unquote growth point is. So somebody who speaks to past lives, speaks to the records of lives, is probably going to be very helpful, because it's in the bandwidth of where the source point of that issue is. And that's why sometimes what's getting healed is perhaps just a simple belief structure picked up in this current life. Sometimes it is past and future lives. But for many dear ones, it's also this collective healing now. So of course, we help with that, the planetary level of healing. And that's what Georgia's work has been cracked into. That's why she helps a lot of people who are helping a lot of other people.
Yeah.
Because it is collective healing emanating out through that stream that way. So it just depends on the match, what's going to work. But for a client, sometimes relief happens just when they have insight. Just like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm not doing everything terribly wrong in this life. It's just there's all this other energy from this other lifetime. And that's really cracking people open into their sort of next level of consciousness. Okay, I'm not just this lifetime. I am a multidimensional being. And so it is the difficult relationship may have just manifested in order for you to break out of a singular egoic identity approach, saying, well, from my current identity, I'm going to fix this relationship with this person in their current identity. Now it's saying, oh, there's multiple identities playing into this dynamic, and I'm going to work with the energy of all of those identities. And oh, guess what? I am more than a singular egoic identity. I have been many things. Oh, next level, guess what? I am everything. And everything is me. That's a big crack in the consciousness.
Now you have to take responsibility for all of it.
For
Because
everything.
actually you created
Yes,
it.
because
And
you created
we're all everything.
Yes, and you are all things. So different, again, healers, modalities will speak very well, different levels at different times. And dear ones may not be ready to crack into their all consciousness God self if they're on their first rodeo with some personal development.
Yeah.
And so these things happen over time as you are ready for it, as it's ready to unfold. You may find that you manifest a situation that may drive you to a healer because you're going through a surrender, saying, I don't know. Even now I understand about past lives, and everything that I learned from the people that I work with past lives is now no longer working. I need to go to the next level, go to somebody who different for a new piece of the bandwidth. And it could be because you're actually having your consciousness cracked to the next level and you're ready for it.
Say you're working with like a client that has an illness or something.
Indeed.
And they're seeing you and you're working on it, and say you're getting results, but
Indeed.
maybe the root problem is, a limiting belief or an issue with, your mom or whatever
Indeed,
the case
yes.
is. If this,
so many mum and dad issues out there, yes, dear ones.
If that person isn't really, let's just say they're not really open to going inward and kind of doing that inner work, are you going to get lasting results, or is that something that's just going to kind of be temporary for them?
All right, this is a wonderful question, because what is lasting results? Because even we would say it's really about levels of consciousness that you're accessing. There is no lasting there's no lasting result until you die, basically, dear ones. Then you get your lasting result and you return back to the all consciousness where none of these issues are going to exist anymore for you, dear ones. So that's your final lasting result. So we're having a little bit of fun with you. So what is the lasting result? And this may be sitting with your sense of responsibility. If somebody is seeming resistant to what you're offering in terms of a more quote unquote advanced perspective or an energetic perspective, it doesn't mean, and you're getting results to a certain degree with what you're doing, but now you're trying to open them up to this sort of next level of something. It doesn't mean that what you're doing is quote unquote futile because you've brought those codes through for them. And those codes are going to kind of sit there at the edge of their resistance for a while because maybe their egoic framework isn't ready for the idea that there's past lives. Or perhaps they have strong religious beliefs that say it's the work of the devil to go into this terrain or something like that. So the codes are just going to sit there kind of simmering at the edge of their resistance, if that makes sense. But they are going to, because the person still invited healing, is still probably calling for the healing for those things. Even with the egoic mind resisting, those codes will still find their way through. And that's why sometimes what you're also doing and what you may have to make peace with is you're sort of bird seeding concepts. But the client themselves has to sort of crack to receive those codes and let them fully embody. And that's what you would see as a more permanent heal, is when the codes that are being called in by the client, and you're not the only vessel to pass that on. We want you to also feel like a little lightened up, because we also like to share this idea of when you're working from the all consciousness, that the whole world is on my side working with me and for me. You don't have to force that client to believe in this in order to open up. That's also not your job to sort of smash them over the head with it and be like, get this now, basically, because that might be your mind's attachment to seeing their result right now, so you know that you're doing a good job and your ego can relax. So this is why we keep wanting to say to dear ones out there, if your intention is there, it's happening, and you can facilitate that at various levels of sophistication. But the client ultimately does have to receive it. But if they're calling for it, if they're calling for it, and they're still resisting the codes that are actually coming in to heal. This is why, dear ones, it often quote unquote gets worse for people before it gets better, because they're calling in the healing, but another part of their mind is resisting the surrender point that will allow those codes to come in and really heal them. So they're still calling them in. This pressure often creates the crush, even what would make somebody finally surrender and, for example, go to a healer or go for a reading or go for a past life regression. It's that pressure point between what they're calling in for and what they're not allowing themselves to receive. So that surrender point will allow those codes to start to move in more deeply. But that may not happen under your watch, if that makes sense. And sometimes, again, if you can relax into this other thing, that not only am I the healer, but the whole world is on my side working with me and for me for this person, you can release some of the wanting to try and control it, because maybe they do have to go and hear from their pastor, for example, say, well, the mysteries of the universe are unknown, and that relaxes a part of them that may feel like it's a sin to, we're just giving examples, a sin to open up to this type of healing. They may just relax enough and be like, oh, okay. And it opens a little gateway that those codes that are simmering there all the time can start to sink in more deeply. So you can't stop it.
That's good.
But people can delay it through resistance. But that's their journey too, dear one.
Yeah. Got it.
Indeed. So it looks like we are probably running out of time on this magnificent conversation. But no, again, there are many questions that are being asked, that you participating in this gateway, it's pulling in. A lot of our big message to all of you, dear ones, is relax and receive more, go into your hearts, relax and receive more. Do it alone, do it together, and it's going to keep bringing that consciousness in that can keep up-leveling and evolving your experience here individually and collectively. We adore you all so very much. Until we're meeting in this way or some other way, we love you very much. And for now, we'll say goodbye, dear ones. Goodbye. Bing, bing.
You wait for the bing.
No, I know it all by heart now.
Do I have to say the bing? Every time.
That's why I always want to go bing.
Bing.
Do that.
I do feel like I'm going to do something because I don't change that much. You know, some people are very like, wow, different when they channel.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Are those goosebumps from being cold, or did you have a...
I get my truth pimples that will pop off when when something's coming through that's really like, oh, this is the point.
Yeah.
When they really want something emphasized.
But,
But I could be a little bit cold today too. But we're getting the truth pimples again. Yes, this is the sign. Okay. That is one of my significators.
Yeah, that is. You get them a lot.
I get them when it's really...
like when you're making points, she'll get them immediately on a certain point.
On a certain point. And that's how I know, because sometimes, again, with that idea of translating, when someone's coming to you and... You know, we can feel as healers put on the spot to provide something for people. And so it's really funny because sometimes I'm embarrassed about how much I talk, because sometimes people will just be like, hey, can you tell me about this? And what they've done is they've opened up the gate, and as a channel, I'll just be like, blah, 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 and like maybe really have dominated the conversation, but I can't. It's because that gate has opened and the codes are coming through, and I just can't really stop it until the download completes. But it's not always like that. But sometimes it's also just that I may be searching in that moment for something, and then when I hit it, I get the truth pimples, and I think the guides are saying, that's the point. That's definitely the point. You're trying to translate all this stuff that's coming through, and you're rapid translating the answers that are coming through, but this is the point. You know, this is the point. Or if it's like, because I'll get the crossover relative. Like, I've been at weddings and people will just sit down next to me, especially when like a glass of champagne or something.
It's all listed on your little channel.
That was happening. Yeah, I would get, just like, I'm at someone's wedding, and then they sit down and suddenly grandma's come through, and it's like, you will get married or whatever. Your day is coming.
Aww. And then do you like tell people like, hey, grandma?
Oh yeah, of
Grandma's
course.
here.
Like, grandma's here. It just happens sometimes. Not always. So don't get your hopes up every time. Like you meet me, that something's going but it happens.
Yeah.
And then I'll get the truth pimples too, especially if it's something that's more maybe people are going to feel like attached to, like they're going to meet like the soulmate or my friend Erica was trying to think of the name for her business, and she asked me, and I was like, gave her desert integration, and I got all the truth pimples.
Yeah, that's funny because you said, you named it. You said, no, I channeled it. Or,
I just translated it for her.
Yeah, you translated it. Yeah.
She was asking, and then, I mean, of course, I'd love to be like, I'm so clever, but really, it just came through.
I love the authenticity. Like, I know it was a download. I didn't.
It was a
think
download.
Of it myself.
It was there in the ethers. So yeah, is that helpful for you?
Yeah.
Yeah. How does it feel being with the circle in person?
Versus over the phone?
Yeah.
I think I felt a little bit more stronger energy.
Yeah.
But I think it felt pretty similar. Yeah.
It's pretty similar. I think that also the energy varies more on if it's a chatty I don't really know. But I know sometimes when we're translating a lot verbally, there's a certain level of energy, but when we go into those silent transmissions, that's when it's like, vroom, like there's like a lot of energy runs to the point that sometimes it's hard for me to stay conscious.
Yeah, I know. I've seen you trans out.
Wow.
Because it is what I can verbalize. I guess I'm just thinking, having this thought out now, what I can verbalize from the codes that are coming in, it's at a frequency that's more of a match for my materiality. But the bigger energies that are coming through in right now, like this major stuff where we're rewriting DNA and everything. I mean, that's like, I can't describe what's going on in the DNA, but it's coming in as these massive energy downloads. And then I'll notice the next week or a week later, I'll be able to translate a little bit more of it verbally.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I have to like learn more of it. Or sometimes I'm even guided to go read up about this thing, so you've got a little bit more in your brain.
Like more vocabulary.
More vocabulary. There was a period where I was doing tons of reading when I worked at the Quest bookstore, and I was just reading all the time about all different things. And then they kind of stopped, where I was like, don't take in any more information.
You like put it in your brain.
Yeah.
And they were able to.
And we want to give you new stuff that's, we don't want too much for this other stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. Have you had that at all where you're like binging? People binge.
I binged on you.
Yeah. People binge on us. Yeah.
When did your channel open, or when you started to get into this healing and even your art?
Yeah. Art, I've always been artistic, but I didn't have the guts because, I was planted the artists can't make money, you know, when you're back there. So I really shied away from it for a while. But finally, when I started doing healing work and stuff on myself, I was like, I think I need to pursue this artist thing and see where it takes me.
No, absolutely. Because it's part of you.
Yeah.
I do feel, even as a comedian, for me to be able to, as a former comedian, but to be able to do that, I'm still funny. As a former funny person. I'm just so boring.
Former funny person.
Consciousness this, consciousness that, healing this.
I used to be funny.
I used to, back in the day, I was funny. Now,
That was cool.
no, but it starts. Well, I guess what I'm trying to say is it all starts to integrate because I used to keep the comedy part secret from my clients because I'm doing like
you didn't hear my stand-up the other day?
my raunchy comedy.
Let me try this new bit on you.
Yeah. I was like, I wouldn't even tell. And then I would keep, and then, you know, my entertainment people didn't know about the woo-woo. I'm still a little bit closeted about some of it.
Do you have Gemini in your chart? Just curious.
I don't have Gemini.
That would be like a Gemini thing, right?
Yeah, big communication.
Yeah. But I think that's a Libra too as well. Like everything has its place, you know.
Yeah.
And because I'm diplomatic, I'm not going to be like, you got to get into this stuff with me, or you will laugh at my jokes while you're suffering from your problem, you know. I'm just like, okay, that's appropriate there.
You take their personal problem and then you create a bit out of
And
it.
then I'm going to be, oh, my clients are coming. I would never do that. My clients are coming on and they're
Like the best material, the most hurtful. The most pain is the best comedy.
Yeah, is she making jokes about my psoriasis on stage or whatever it is? Thanks for shutting me. By the way, I have not treated psoriasis, which is why I use that as an example, because I really do. I'm thinking about all my clients. I'm like, you can't use that. Don't use that. Don't use that. Don't use that. Don't use that. Okay, this is what I can use as an example because I'm actually very, try and be protective of my clients.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh my God, I outed you. But that would be the worst. Wouldn't that be the worst? Like, gee, I can't trust my healer because like she's on the late show.
The late night show, throwing out the jokes about our healing session.
Jimmy Kimmel like blurting out my private stuff. Because even we've received feedback to give more like case studies about like when we're channeling about stuff to give more case studies, and I'm like, I don't really feel comfortable talking really specifically about what clients have come to me about, you know, on the show. Maybe a bit, or if they're open, if they've spoken about it openly, that's different, but to a point. So just so you know. That's my responsibility.
She does her HIPAA, even though
I do my HIPAA even though I'm a woo. Yeah.
Even though she has her HIPAA policies in place and her
that's
woo-woo.
so funny. Yeah. So the other day, this client came in. Wah. Maybe that's why my comedy career never took up, because I might like to the degree that I wanted. Yeah, throw people under the cosmic bus.
The cosmic. She had to throw in the cosmic.
Boom. That's funny. So I don't even know what's. I think you had a question before that went off, or you had a question.
Oh, she was asking me how I got into.
Oh yeah. Sorry. Yes.
Quantum touch was the first like energy healing thing that I practiced, and at the time I was working with a lot of like psychics and healers and things.
Yeah.
And I would always admire them. You know, I was like, oh man, they have the gift. You know, something special. And when I started learning that modality, I was like, oh shoot, I see stuff. Like I'm connecting to something. Yeah. And so that opened me up. And then I started like pursuing like what else is there and what am I actually doing? And you know,
it's
questions.
So cool.
Yeah.
That's why we use the term fan when people fan on artists, healers, whatever. We go, it's frequency activate now. So the healer or the whatever is helping to activate your frequencies, and that's why people fan and binge on the Circle of Light, because they're like getting the frequencies from the recordings. That's why we're like binge. If you want to learn how to translate better, all the codes are in there, because we're opening up. Because a lot of people only visit a healer once, or not only once, but when people have that one shot mentality, you're going to get something, but it's the rewriting that happens through the repetition that really brings more of the lasting results, which isn't dying. The living lasting results.
Results. Yeah, when I first went to the Circle of Light, and they said that it would be a good idea to listen to all the recordings every night before bed to help open up my energy construct so they can actually work on me even better and go deeper. To get my egoic mind
out the way.
To move out of the
and
way.
Honestly, that would be a lot of preparation for you to be able to like hang with them as much as you do for the show, because they can have quite an impact on working with people, you know, like just being in around them a lot of the times. I mean, I've had to deal with that as a person, that it's a lot of energy traveling with you a lot of the times, and you have to be mindful that you have probably more of an impact than being not with all the healing codes, because you're activating people's experiences through the presence. Yeah. And sometimes
you
people
give them
are
some
like,
shadow work. You're like, sorry about that.
yeah, sorry, I thought we were just going on a date, and now
you're like having a panic attack. I just was.
Yeah, well, I would go on dates and people's like hands would be shaking, and I realized it wasn't because I was that gorgeous. It was probably the frequencies that are just traveling with me, and people are like unintegrated. They just feel nervous around me.
Wow.
Yeah, bummer if they're kidding. No, it was just, but it was always like it took me a while to understand that you know, people are feeling that like a little, you know, agitated. Yeah.
Well, Vicky, thank you so much for coming on. I'll put all the stuff in the links down below, and you can find more at Georgia down below. And if you need to get a hold of me, there's more links and stuff like that.
Yeah, awesome questions. Thank you. They were really great questions, because I think there's a lot of people who are opening up and want more guidance on that. Yeah. I
agree.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Super fun.
All right. Yeah. Well, we love you all. See you on the next one.
Bye. I will